pues, clase, hoy durante la clase vamos a hablar de la gramática de la lección 3241. Favor de sacar esta hoja. Anoche ustedes completaron esta hoja para la tarea porque la información o es repaso o es nuevo desde las páginas de gramática. Noten el título en la parte superior, Important Ideas about the Preterite Tense. Esta es la hoja que deben tener para repasar la gramática. Now, the front side of the sheet might have been a little bit of a challenge for you because all of that is review material and it's not contained expressly in this lesson. But you have access to all of that information either from your notes or from the back of the textbook or even earlier portions of the textbook where we covered that information. The back of the sheet really deals with the things that are in this lesson. And we're going to review the whole sheet now to make sure you have the right answers. And then we're going to have a lecture about the verbs ponerse and dar, which are really special in this lesson, and we need to figure out how to use them well so that we can talk about our own reactions to events. So take this list out, and I'm just going to ask you some questions, and we're going to fill some things in. All right, so the preterite tense tells what, clase? What happened? What happened? And usually it is a one-time occurrence or a limited number of occurrences. And in this lesson, remember that we're using it because we're talking about reactions to something that just happened. So it's a one-time event, and it's right now an isolated reaction because it's a reaction to that last event. So the conjugation of regular verbs in the preterite tense, notice that they're organized in columns rather than in the side-by-side two-column with three verbs in it. So we're going to go straight down a column for AR verbs. Clase, las terminaciones para los verbos AR. Yo, con acento, tú, haste, él, usted, o, nosotros, amos, muy bien, vosotros, hastes, ellos, ellas, ustedes, Aaron, muy bien. Y para los verbos, ER, forma yo, clase, y con acento, tú, iste, él, usted, y yo. Y noten ustedes que el acento va sobre el O, no sobre el I, pero sobre el O. Nosotros, clase, imos, vosotros, istes, ellos, ellas, ustedes, hieron. Muy, muy bien. Ahora, reflexive verbs in the preterite. I noticed that as I walked around the classroom that a lot of you left that line blank because you didn't know what I wanted there. And it's probably because you were overthinking it. How do reflexive verbs act in the preterite? Turn to your partner and tell him or her what you think the answer to that question is. What do reflexive verbs do in the preterite? Now, don't overthink it. It's a really simple answer. Okay? Who wants to be brave and give us the answer? Maddie? Oh, no, she was just stretching. Who wants to give the answer? Do I have to go get the cards? Oh, I think I have to go get the cards. Oh, Jackie.
Do they conjugate normally?
Yeah, they just do the same thing they do in the present tense or any other tense. There's nothing special about reflexive verbs in the preterite. We're going to take the reflexive pronoun off the end, put it in front of the conjugated verb, make sure it matches the subject. If we're going to use the verb in the infinitive form, we can leave that pronoun attached to the end of the infinitive, but we're going to make sure it matches the subject of the sentence. Or in other words, if the subject is yo, the pronoun will be changed to may. If the subject is to, the pronoun will be changed to te, etc. All right, very good. Yeah, you were overthinking that, weren't you? You thought it was some big revelation, and it wasn't. All right, so now I left you space there for an example to just jot down a reflexive verb to remind yourself about what the pronouns are and how to conjugate a regular verb in the preterite tense that is reflexive. All right. Then the next line deals with car, gar, and sar verbs in the preterite. In general, give me a general statement that characterizes what happens with car, gar, and sar verbs in the preterite. The yo form has a spelling change. Exactly. The yo form of a car, gar, or sar verb has a spelling change in the preterite. Remember that in the yo form, a car verb changes C to what? Clase? QU. And why do we do that? Turn to somebody near you and explain. I'm going to write up the other changes so that you can make sure you have those. But turn to someone near you and explain why we make that change. Okay, who would like to explain for all of us why these changes occur? Kelly?
Well, they changed to keep the sound throughout the entire
Verb. Exactly. They change to keep the sound or the pronunciation of the verb the same. Now, notice that you have some room there for examples. So let's think about the verb sacar or buscar. Let's use buscar. Buscar, which means to look for. If we don't change the C of the yo form to QU, what do we get? Buse, because that C is soft before the E. So we're going to change it to QU so that we can have it be pronounced like busque, so that we're keeping the same sound that we have for that letter in the infinitive. So then we have busque, buscaste, buscó, buscamos, buscastes, buscaron. Do we need to change the C to QU in any other form? No, why not? It's always hard. Why is it always hard? What follows the C in every other form? An A, right? And C is hard before A, O, and U. All right, so that exists, those circumstances exist only in the yo form for car, gar, and sar verbs. Gar verbs change G to GU to keep that hard G sound. And sar verbs, which have an interesting pronunciation in Spain, change the Z to C. Now, we don't, because I speak a Latin American version of Spanish, you don't hear that sound change. And throughout Latin America, they don't make that sound change. But in Spain, it is critical to change the spelling of the word. So everybody who speaks Spanish, writes Spanish all over the world, still changes that Z to C. Okay? Questions about the front of the sheet? All right. Was that helpful for us to go over it? All right, very good. Let's flip over to the back page. Now, this says stem changing verbs in the preterite. This information in your textbook was on page 132, although there may be some things that I put in here that are not exactly in the textbook. So what happens with AR and ER stem changing verbs in the preterite? They don't change. AR and ER stem changing verbs in the preterite don't change. But IR stem changers do change, and their change is different than it is in the present tense. Verbs, stem changing verbs that have an E in the stem with an E in the stem, change the E to what? I, when?
The third person.
In the third person. And yesterday we established that the third person is él, ella, usted, and ellos, ellas, ustedes. So therefore the change occurs in both in the third person, both singular and plural. So what happens with O in the stem? The change is what? O to U. Okay? O to U. Again, only in the third person. And then notice that I gave you a list or spaces to write 8 IR stem changing verbs that you need to remember. What do you have in the list? What's the first one you put on your list? Sentirse. Second one? Dormirse. Next one? Morirse. Next one? Preferir. Next one? Seguir. Next one? Divertirse. Next one? Vestirse. Next one? Reírse. Is that all 8?
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, I made a mistake. I left something out here. What did I leave out? Well, we just talked about what stem change they have. I didn't leave you space to practice, and we probably ought to write down a model verb so that we have a pattern that shows us in action what these rules mean. And we didn't write down that special rule for reírse that's in the textbook. So let's conjugate one of those IR stem changing verbs. Noah, which one would you like us to do? Sentirse. All right, that's the first one. That's awesome. It is a verb, IR stem changing verb that has an E in the stem. And it's going to change in the third person, singular and plural. So if we drew a little chart in our notes somewhere, or if you want to just write it in the margin, that's okay too. We know that it's going to change, but it's only going to change in the third person. Here's the first person, here's the second person, here's the third person. So here's where we're going to make the stem change. Plus, this is a reflexive verb. So we have to remember to add those reflexive pronouns. Clase, forma yo. Me sentí. Yep, the preterit, we're not going to change the stem. Now, even though we knew the rules, how awkward was that when you were trying to remember how to say it, right? So this is why we practice a little bit to get it straight. We know the rule, makes sense to us, we know we can do it, but then when we first go try to do it, it's a little awkward. All right, forma tú, clase. Te sentiste. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. El, ella, usted, clase. Se sintió. Se sintió. Nosotros, nosotras, clase. Nos sentimos. Vosotros, clase. Os sentisteis. Remember, it's exactly the same as the to form with an IS added to the end. Os sentistes. Okay, dun, dun, dun. Okay, last cell. What is it, clase? Se sintieron. There's a model IR verb. Now, the same thing is going to happen with an O, a verb with an O in the stem, like dormir or morir. Dormir, dormirse, morir, morirse. They're going to have the same thing, except that instead of changing the stem vowel E to I, you're going to change the stem vowel O to U. So verbally, I mean, it's just with your voice, verbally, let's conjugate dormirse. Or make sure it was reflexive. Let's conjugate dormirse en el pretérito. Clase, ¿listos? Forma yo. Me dormí. Tú. Te dormiste. Él, usted. Se durmió. Not se duermió, because we're not changing the O to UE. We're changing the O to U. Se durmió. Repitan, por favor. Se durmió.
Se durmió.
Muy bien. Nosotros, clase. Nos dormimos. Vosotros, clase.
Os dormisteis.
Os dormistes. Ellos, ellas, ustedes, clase.
Se durmieron.
Se durmieron. Se durmieron. Es un poco difícil de pronunciar. Sí. Now, the other thing that I left out of that area was a reminder that when you conjugate reírse, you need to have an accent in every form except the third person plural. In other words, ellos, ellas, ustedes. Third person plural, oh, and third person singular, except the whole third person. Okay? So, yesterday we talked about why we have to add an accent mark. Do you remember what the reason was? Turn to your partner and tell him or her. Okay, Dylan, do you remember what the reason was?
Yeah.
You don't remember.
Wait.
I mean, I was talking yesterday and you were listening and didn't remember. You don't remember every golden bit of information I give?
I didn't exactly hear the whole question. I only heard about half of it.
Oh.
Can you say
Did your ears stop working for a few minutes?
Apparently.
You had a little glitch?
Yeah.
The question is, yesterday we explained why we put an accent mark on those forms of reírse in the preterite when we conjugate. Do you remember why we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it?
So that the I is pronounced as a separate syllable.
So that the I is pronounced as a separate syllable so that we know the difference between the stem of the verb and the ending of the verb. Because if we don't put it there in the to form, we would get te reste. And what we really want is te reíste, so that we know that the stem is re and the ending is iste. Te reíste. Now that concept is super important because it applies in all of the tenses with certain weirdly wonderful verbs. So when you encounter one of those weirdly wonderful verbs again, you will know the reason why that's going to happen. All right? Now, let's take a look at irregular stem preterites. For irregular stem preterites, there are some unique endings. Yesterday, we called them blended endings. Why did we call them blended endings? Tell somebody near you. All right. Why did we call them? Oh, why did we call them blended endings yesterday? Joey?
Because the endings come from AR versus ER and IR.
Okay. The endings, the set of endings, come from the AR and ERIR endings, but they are neither all AR or neither all ERIR. They're a mix. So let's remind ourselves what those endings are. Clase forma yo, e. Forma tú, iste. Forma él, ella, usted, o. Nosotros, clase, imos. Vosotros, istes, ellos, ellas, ustedes, hieron. And we noted that the yo form and the el, ella, usted form are AR endings. And the others are ER, IR endings, but there's one notable difference. AJ? They don't have accent marks. So irregular stem preterites never have accent marks. Now notice here on your sheet, I listed 4 verbs that you already know that are irregular stem preterites, and then 2 from this lesson that are of focus in this lesson. Okay? So we need to, and I left you a big space there to practice conjugating. Now the beautiful thing is that on page 130 of your text, they conjugate ponerse and decir for you. So those should already be there. What you might not remember are the weird irregular stems for andar, tener, estar, and venir. Let's see how much you remember. Let's talk about the yo form of each of those verbs. What's the yo form of andar in the preterite, clase? Anduve. Muy bien. And so then the other endings, the other forms just fall from that. Anduve, anduviste, anduvo, anduvimos, anduvistes, anduvieron. What about tener, clase? Tuve. Muy bien. Tuviste, tuvo, tuvimos, tuvistes, tuvieron. What about estar, clase? Estuve. Estuviste, estuvo, estuvimos, estuvistes, estuvieron. And venir, clase? Vine, vine, viniste, vino, vinimos, vinistes, vinieron. Now, those of you who went ahead and did the work, you went, oh, yeah, I remember that now. And I'm so glad that you did it because I had people to answer me. That's awesome. All right. Now, there are 4 irregular preterites that we need to pay attention to in this lesson because we want to use them. Now, even though your textbook doesn't mention all of them, the textbook does mention ser and dar. But we also want to use ir and ver. Like when I went to the basketball game, I felt. When I saw the score, I felt. So we need to know how to conjugate these verbs in the preterite as well. So ser is in the textbook on page 134, but we have used ser so many times in the preterite. So you make sure that you've written down the forms of ser in your notes. Repitan, por favor. No. Díganme, por favor. Forma, verbo ser, forma yo. Clase, fui. Tú, fuiste. Él, usted. Fue, nosotros. Fuimos, vosotros. Fuistes, ellos, ellas, ustedes. Fueron. Now the beautiful thing is that ir is identical to ser in the preterite. So why not put it right there on the sheet anyway, right?
Oh, that's what I forgot.
Yeah, there you go. They're identical. Dar, clase yo. Di, tú. Él, usted. Dio, nosotros. Dimos, vosotros. Ellos, ellas, ustedes. Dieron. And ver, clase. Bi, tú. Él, usted. Nosotros. Ellos, vosotros. Vistes. Ellos, ellas, ustedes. Vieron. Dar and ver are identical except for the initial letter. Ser and ir are identical. And they have no accents. They have no accent marks. All right. Now, special applications of ser, there's one, and a star, there are two in this lesson. So on the first line, the special application of the verb ser to say where an event took place, how someone did, or to sum up what someone or something was like. And then for a star, again, this is from page 134. Number 3, you can use the preterit of a star to say where someone or something was, or to how someone felt for a certain period of time. And then the other one is, you can use the preterit of a star to give your opinion on how something was. Again, that's straight from the textbook on page 134. Then, if you turn back to page 130, you have the box on ponerse and decir. Now, unfortunately, we're running out of time. I was hoping to do that presentation. We'll do that presentation on Monday, okay? Because that presentation on dar and ponerse helps you figure things out. Now, I also did something with your homework to help you figure things out as well. So let's make sure that we have the notes for the special uses here on the Cornell notes. And then at the top of tonight's homework sheet, I put a table in there that will also help you immensely in doing well. But tuning in and understanding these concepts today will help too. On page 130, the special uses of ponerse and dar in this lesson. You can use ponerse followed by an adjective to say how someone felt. Okay? Ponerse plus an adjective to say how someone felt as a reaction to something that happened. You can use ponerse plus a plus an infinitive to say what someone did as a reaction. Okay? So, for example, let's say, backing into the garage, I hit something precious that belongs to my husband that he has left in the garage, because I can't see it. We could use ponerse plus an adjective to say, Tom felt angry. Okay? Or we could say ponerse a plus an infinitive to say, Tom got angry and threw a fit. Okay? He felt angry. That's how he felt afterward. Ponerse a plus an infinitive is what he does. Okay? Then, for dar, we can use dar with dar le ganas de to say what someone felt like doing. And remember here, with all the phrases that we've been using with dar le ganas de, dar le ganas in that phrase, as you can see from your vocabulary list, dar is always dieron because it agrees with ganas. But in the other expressions, like me dio una rabia, it gave me a rage, it's always dio because the subject of that sentence is it, the event. The event gave me something, okay? Noah, will you see John later? You give him this homework sheet because send an extra back. Okay. So let's take a look at this homework sheet. I think you're going to appreciate the extra effort I went to here to help you figure this out. We didn't get to the presentation. So this sheet, the top of this sheet is going to be even more important to you because we didn't get to the presentation. Now we're really short on time, so please tune in. Notice at the top of this sheet, I gave you some formulas. The indirect object pronoun plus dar plus a noun means it made someone feel a certain way. And the form of dar in that formula is always going to be dio, D-I-O. You might want to jot that down so you don't forget it. The next formula, R-O-P plus poner plus an adjective, someone felt, someone became, someone put themselves in a certain mood. This is reflexive, so the verb changes according to the subject. An indirect object pronoun plus dar plus ganas plus de plus an infinitive, someone felt like doing something. In this formula, dar will always be dieron because it agrees with ganas. And then the last formula, ROP, reflexive object pronoun plus poner plus plus an infinitive, someone began to do something. Now notice, in your first two formulas, you need a noun if you're going to use dar, and you need an adjective if you're going to use poner. So I put a table there of nouns and their related adjectives so that you could use either formula to talk about how someone felt. Notice that I may have put some pairs of sentences there to help you distinguish. Look at number one. It made me happy. It gave me happiness. Which formula do I want? The first one. Exactly, with dar. I felt happy, as in I became happy, or I put myself in a happy mood. What formula do I want? The second one, right? With poner. Try it. All I care about is that you try. All 12 of them. Don't come in with a blank sheet. Don't come in with any of them blank. Try them all. And on Monday, we'll correct them, and we'll feel better about the material for sure. Questions? I guess there's no time for questions.
Oh, I just got